Thank you for joining us with Taking Five with Phil, brought to you by Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. Remember, where you bank matters.
Well
I got
said.
that.
Well said. Nice
Thank
job.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I took notes when I was watching the last wrap to make sure I was doing it properly. Uh, with us is our senior writer and fearless leader, Phil Hauk. And how we doing? How we feeling after this past weekend?
I feel like this team is this close to being really good. Obviously, it's an elimination game this weekend, so I know we're going to get into that. But imperfections on offense, no doubt about that. But a lot of great potential when you've got a quarterback that can throw for 342 yards, and
Well,
the defense is playing really well.
that's where we're going to lead off with Mr. Traore. He kind of stood out to me on the defense this past weekend with the two sacks. It just seems like when he's getting off, like he was getting off, it kind of opens things up for the other guys on that defensive line to get some work in and look really, really good. So tell me kind of what your field view of what was going on there and how that D line and linebacker core was kind of meshing together.
Yeah, Boubacar Traore he's the biggest weapon on that defense, in my opinion. Best pass rusher by a long shot. And 5.5 sacks this year. He's got 24 tackles. That puts him really like in the top six on the team, which is pretty good for a defensive end. You don't see that a lot. Uh, he was just, he had that offensive tackle last week for North Carolina State backpedaling the whole game. There's a guy, but for injury, I think right now would be considered one of the best. He would be famous nationally and be well known. But last year, of course, he was starting to have a really good season coming into his own. Then he goes down with the knee injury. I think it was at the Purdue game. But yeah, Boubacar Traore. We're going to talk about. In fact, me and Tim Priest are set to talk about him as one of our topics on the show this year because he is playing, or this week because he's playing that well. Fortunately, he's got 2 more years of eligibility left after this year, but if he continues on this current trajectory, I think next year would probably be his last year because that guy's got NFL written all over him.
Right. Um, Next question I have for you is going to be in regards to the wide receiver core. So coming into this year, we heard the names, the big get from Malachi Fields. We had Greathouse coming back, Faison, and then Pauling. And then you hear in the offseason, oh, Pauling's a dog. Well, you don't know if that's translating into play on the field. You feel like maybe that's a attitude thing that he brings to the team that's a positive. Well, this past weekend, we saw Pauling go off. We saw Raridan, our tight end, go off. We saw our young kid, KK Smith, go off and have great games. The names that you weren't expecting, and Faison and Fields each had good catches too, but they were on the bottom of the list. The names that weren't being brought up in the preseason are showing up. How encouraging is that for that wide receiver room and the offense in general?
Well, I want to point out, first of all, of course, yeah, Pauling, he had 93 yards on the first drive, I think, something like that, or at least just a few minutes into the game. Notre Dame had two receivers with over 100 yards. Any idea when the last time is? And then that was, of course, Eli Raridan, who's rapidly turning into a top-notch tight end that we thought he could be. His career arc has also been limited by injuries, but he's outstanding. When was the last time Notre Dame had two receivers? You got any
I'll
idea?
take a guess. Michael Floyd, Golden Tate.
No, no, it's been since then. It
So
may kind
let's
of.
second guess. Since then, it's going to be a Tyler Eifert and somebody else. No?
No, I don't think you'll get it because they're not two names that come right to mind. But think of a game where Notre Dame had some incredible offensive output in a losing effort.
Incredible offensive output in a losing effort. Can you tell me who the opponent was?
I can tell you that it was in, well, yeah, I can tell you it was in a bowl game. How does that sound?
Oh, so it was LSU then.
No, you're really
Gosh.
whipping on this one,
Yeah, I'm
Jesse.
whiffing.
Uh, Marcus Freeman's first game ever as a coach. the
Oh,
Banana
Oklahoma
Bowl
State. Okay.
2022.
Okay.
If you remember, Jack Cohn just lit it up. Notre Dame over 500 yards passing, and the two receivers were. Any guesses?
Okay. Jack Conyer. Oh,
Yeah.
Jack Cohn had Mayer, but
Nope.
it wasn't
Nope.
him.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Hit
Kevin
me.
Austin
Ah, okay.
and Chris Tyree
When he was playing receiver.
over 100 yards in that game, and both of them. And now this week we got Will Pauling and Eli Raridon. That's a nice milestone and really a mark of where this receiver core is. Uh, and the guy coming into the season, who everybody thought was going to be the guy, has hardly had an impact, partially because of injury, and that's Jaden Greathouse. Hopefully they get him back, and that's just another weapon that they'll have. You got to love Will Pauling. The guy just gets open. He did that in at Wisconsin. He had an injury last year that kind of limited his performance there, but now as a grad transfer, just playing outstanding football, getting open all the time, and he can become a bit of a security blanket along with that big tight end. And then you got the big guy, Malachi Fields, and we know what Faison can do too. I mean, there's a lot of weapons in that receiving core.
It's been exciting seeing Raridan also kind of step into what we all thought he could be, just with his athleticism and size. And that was kind of the fun thing to watch for me last weekend. Question number three, and this isn't really a question I like to talk about too much, but considering the state of even pro football and all the college games last week, the reffing, and I'm okay with a missed call. But when you're going to the review box and you're not being consistent with what's a catch or not a catch and things of that nature, and it wasn't just a problem in the NC State game, it's been a problem many times in many games all over the country. What is your feeling on the state of like the referee kind of situation in the country right now?
Well, we've made this bed for us. I mean, we everybody now is a referee, right? Because we have the replay. I mean, okay, I'm okay with replay and all that stuff. And yeah, the refereeing has been not good for two straight games against Notre Dame. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you notice that. And in fact, it's not just Notre Dame fans that noticed it. You saw that the Terry McCauley, the replay guy on Twitter, came out and said what's he do the replay analysis for
Mhm.
NBC or something like that. And his comment was something along the lines of the failure to reverse to incomplete in the Notre Dame NC State game is quite possibly the worst replay ruling I've seen this season. He came out, and usually those guys are going to have each other's backs if there's the benefit of the doubt. It was terrible. It was just there was nobody in our press box at that game as that one went to review that didn't think it would be reversed. It was that obvious to everybody. I mean, we are objective. There's no doubt that most of us would rather see Notre Dame win because it's good for business. But it was egregious, and there's been two bad weeks in a row, and I don't know. I don't know what you do with the replays, and yeah, it's good that it's transparent, and with all the money in the game, particularly with gambling these days, it comes down to plays, and people get ultra emotional, and that's just the way the game's going. I never heard booing that loud in Notre Dame Stadium. And that's 2 weeks in a row now that the officials have left the field to loud courses of boos. But that's the game. And when you're in the stadium, of course, all the fans there could see all the replays right there on the big screen. We didn't
Right,
used to have those, right? So
right. Well,
that's the way the game's gone.
the
Hopefully
craziest
it gets
thing,
better this week, right?
right? Well, the craziest thing about that one was it was back-to-back plays. They
Yeah.
don't reverse a play they called catch where you can clearly
Yeah.
see the ball move when it hits the ground. And
Yeah.
then on the interception on the next play, the ball seems to be secured as it hits the ground and stay in place, and they don't reverse the call on that. You
Yeah,
know,
I was a little less convinced that the second one should be reversed. I thought I saw just maybe a little bit, and I said, "Oh, I think he got it." But there was one angle that showed maybe the ball stick, but still, almost everybody else disagreed with me that they didn't even think there was any doubt that it would be reversed, and that's two in a row.
Well,
And
the second one was the thing that affected it the most is the call on the field was it was not an interception. That was the thing that affected it the most. So I get that. All right, question number 4. The big news comes out of Penn State. James Franklin's firing, which, we talked about this before about, the impact of firing a coach midseason, whether it's a coordinator or a head coach, even for that matter, the effect it can have. Well, it just seems like the powers that be there, they have so much money invested in the success of this program that enough was enough for them with the big game losses. Um, I hadn't heard Freeman's name mentioned too much at the very. I heard it dropped a couple times. Today, though, On Three is reporting that the AD out of Penn State's making a big run at Marcus Freeman. Has there been any rumblings amongst your peers about that being a play that's possible?
no, and I'll tell you why. Uh, Marcus Freeman is not Brian Kelly. We all know this, and it's personality driven. He's not the kind of guy that is gonna. I just don't believe that. I didn't think it would happen with Brian Kelly either. That is true. I didn't think he would leave Notre Dame. But what would Marcus Freeman gain by taking this job? Different from where Brian Kelly was a few years ago. Brian Kelly was not didn't have the facilities, but now Marcus Freeman's getting everything at Notre Dame right now. And Brian Kelly could make the argument and go, well, I need my football facility expanded, all that stuff. Well, that's happening at Notre Dame now. Everything is in place. I really it's been told to me that the only thing to really worry about with Marcus Freeman is that someday he might want to go to the NFL.
Right. Well,
But it
also,
just how about Kurt Signetti going to Penn State? He'd be insane to.
that's a lateral move now at this point in time with as much money as I use investing in SIG.
Right.
I told people, I was talking to people on Twitter after I ate all my crow from Indiana winning that game
You
on
deserve
Twitter.
to eat some.
Oh, absolutely. More than my share. But I'm telling him, why would he leave for Penn State? He gets everything he wants there. And I think IU could probably do a wideout better than Penn State, to be honest with you. That crimson and cream kind of pops when everybody's rocking the white in Memorial Stadium.
Bloomington
Regardless,
is a vastly superior campus.
I spent my 21st birthday there and many weekends. I know the culture. It's not too shabby. I did want to say this about Marcus too. This always comes back. He's a father of 6 kids. I know his son's going off to college. He's still got 5 kids in school. I don't think right now would be a time he wants to uproot and move them, you know, 400 miles or whatever the distance is you know, to become the head coach somewhere else when he's got the ball rolling so well at Notre Dame. So that's kind of my thoughts on that whole situation.
Maybe it's leverage to get a few more bucks, but I don't that I don't mark I got to believe what I see, and Marcus Freeman has never uh, indicated to me in any way that he's driven by just pure financial gain. That he really does believe all that stuff he says about his team and about team first and team glory and all that stuff. And he's in no better place to have that sort of philosophy than at Notre Dame.
Agreed. Agreed. Question number 5 could potentially be the end for the foreseeable future of one of, if not the greatest rivalry in college football history, USC and Notre Dame. That's what we got this Saturday. Um, I want to point out the all-time record currently between the two schools. It's I believe it's 52, 38, and 5 ties. Notre Dame leads the series. Now, the series was super, super close back when Pete Carroll was still at USC and they were just racking up the wins against us at that point in time. And Notre Dame's kind of put some distance there. But it's always the game I've looked forward to more than really any other game every year. What does it mean to try to pursue with passion to keep this rivalry going for both schools?
Well, there's probably no other team rivalry out there uh, Well, of course, there isn't one like it because it's not like Michigan, Ohio State because they're geographically located pretty close to each other. I
Right.
mean, this is a wide area. We're talking the coast all the way to, and it's just so historic how it got started with, uh, Bonnie Rockney suggesting to her husband Newt that, hey, it'd be nice to go out to Southern California late in the year and enjoy some nice warm weather. And Newt was convinced, and so they set it up, and then Notre Dame would go on a 10-day train ride all the way out. And uh, in the second year of that history of that series, they played in front of 120,000 fans at Soldier Field in Chicago. Now, I did a little research on that fact this week, and I asked, I said, why is that not considered to be the largest attendance ever for a college football game? That record's held officially by Michigan with 115,000 fans at a game. Apparently, they said it's because this was really before uh, there were they were confirming the sizes of crowds, and that was an estimated number. But if you've ever seen the pictures of Soldier Field, it used to be open on both ends, and there were just people everywhere. It was an unbelievable picture. Uh, yeah, it's historic, and the series, the 1970 game, Jesse, just broke this 10-year-old's heart. My favorite all-time football player, because I became just hero worship at the age of 10, was Joe Theismann. And he was, of course, quarterback, and 1970 was a magical season in many ways. Notre Dame was ranked number one in the country, undefeated. Went out to the West Coast, and USC was like 5-5. They were playing 11 games, I think, in the season then, and they beat Notre Dame by 10 points. Joe Theismann that night in a torrential rainfall in the Coliseum passed for still a school record 526 yards in that game in the rain, and I can still remember it as a 10-year-old crying myself to sleep that night. And it was at that point in my life I realized, even yeah, as a 10-year-old, I realized I'm really all bought in on this thing.
Right.
This really means a lot to me. And it was those and that game still impacts me today. That's the power of Notre Dame USC. It's been an incredible series. There have been so many times. I wrote the article this week. You can go see it on irishillustrated.com or fightingirishpreview.com. Thank you. Yeah, you could probably go to Irish
Priester likes
Illustrated.
the plug. Priester
Yeah,
likes the plug.
he does, and they actually pick up a lot of my stuff. But on fightingirishpreview.com about the history of the series, about how many times um, one of those two teams, how the game decided the national championship. It's happened about 8 or 9 times in the series. How many Heisman Trophy winners have played in that series? A whole bunch. It's a great series. Everybody likes to talk about it. Will it continue? I get, with all the money in the game now, it's all about winning. It's not so much about these things. It's how can we win the national championship, period. And that's what money's done to the game. I think they'll find a way to continue it, but the series is going to change a little bit. Yeah, I
Right.
think what's most likely going to happen is that game might not be played every year, and it'll be played early in the season to benefit USC because they don't want to during their Big Ten schedule to be continually flying back to the Midwest or not. So you want to blame USC? Sure, why not?
This
But if they were going to be in the Big Ten, this was inevitable.
this question number five is actually a multi-parter, but I do want to bring up 1970, and generationally, there's always that one game. So for me, it was 93 Boston College after we beat Florida State. That was
There were some
93.
there were some tears shed that night too.
And then for the generation after me, there were 10 to 12-year-olds watching the Bush push game.
2005.
Yeah, every generation has this one game, it seems like, with USC that's just an absolute heartbreaker. And I'm sure that Notre Dame's offered USC fans some of those too, in return. Of course, you remember the losses more than you remember the wins, the
That,
heartbreaking losses.
what you just said is actually what got me into the College Football Hall of Fame. Because, yes, although the display has changed, and I have to say that my quote is no longer in the College Football Hall of Fame because I was there, but it was there for a long time, and it was attached to the a display on the series, on the Notre Dame USC series, and it talked about how every Notre Dame fan or remembers how USC tore their heart out a time or two, and Notre Dame has done the same thing exactly back to USC any number of times. Something along those lines. I
Right,
paraphrased what I said, but yeah, that
right.
was in the College Football Hall of Fame, that quote from Phil Houck of Fighting Irish Preview. But in
Oh,
any event,
the humble beginnings of the Phil Houck quotes that made it
right,
to the Hall of Fame.
right.
Um,
Let's
so
go.
that
Let's beat USC. This is a big elimination game this week. You win it, and you pretty much control your CFP, your destiny. Notre Dame, for all intents and purposes, is back totally in the national conversation, in my opinion. But you lose it, you might as well start making your reservations for the Pop Tarts Bowl.
Well, I'm going to hit you with a couple of stats I went over prior to this game. So USC's overall offense is ranked top five in almost every single category. And the one thing that pops out is their rushing game's getting like 6.5 yards per carry against most teams. So that's a daunting task for the defense. On the flip side, they have they're one of the worst teams in penalties committed. They are 98th in pass defense. Um, they're top 30 in rush defense. Illinois put up 170 on them in the game they won. Give me the one reason Notre Dame wins this game, and the one reason Notre Dame loses this game off the top of your
I
head.
think they're going to exploit that pass defense, Notre Dame, and that's the biggest reason. I think we haven't yet seen CJ Carr's best game, and I think you're likely to see it this week. And so there's your reason, because you're right. If there's a weak spot on USC, the weakest spot is in that defensive secondary, and Notre Dame can exploit that. And you want a reason why they won't?
Yep.
Uh, if they get involved in a pure track meet and they don't tackle guys and give up a lot yards after the catch, I mean USC is going to get explosive plays in this game. Notre Dame's got to tackle those guys. They can't give up yards after catch. They got to slow down that charge because USC is certainly capable of that. So, tackling in the secondary, putting a lid on those explosive plays. If they don't do that, that doesn't won't look good for Notre Dame.
Well, I'm going to throw one other. I think it's, and most games do come down to this. It's the turnovers. I think that's kind of what killed USC, obviously, last year against us because we were in a bit of a track meet for most of that game
We
until
for
the
sure
end.
were.
Uh, I kept thinking we were going to pull away, and nope, they kept coming back. They kept coming back.
Well, that was
So
when that was really the game where Jaden Maeva came of age. I mean, people knew
sure.
about him, and I think he'd had one or two good games prior to that. He came in at midseason uh, to start playing, and that night it was like, whoa, this guy's something else, and he is something else.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the outcome of this weekend is, and I hope it's all cheers and smiles because, again, the Twitter universe is going to be so unbearable the minute I dip my toe back in if we lose this game. Thanks for
Stay
joining me.
away.
Thanks for joining me again, Phil. I appreciate the time. I'm Jesse. I'm the webmaster with Fighting Irish Preview, and this has been Taking Five with Phil. See you guys next time.
Thanks, Jesse.